Salman Khan's story remains our top focus this afternoon. I can also tell you much happening in Parliament because Sonia Gandhi, I am told, has lit into the Prime Minister on the issue of not appointing a CVC or a Chief Information Commissioner. That's happening in Parliament. But our focus at this moment is on the Salman case. Our correspondent Munish Chandra has spoken to the public prosecutor Pradeep Gharat. Listen in to him.
I have been joined by public prosecutor Mr. Pradeep Gharat. Gharat sir, congratulations.
Thank you. What is your first reaction, sir? Thank you very much.
So your first reaction?
First reaction is that the law has done its job now. The person against whom the offence has been proved is convicted by the Honorable Court, and now the quantum of sentence will be decided. We have demanded the maximum sentence for him.
What was the observation of the court? Can you just tell us what was the observation of the court while convicting Salman Khan?
Observations of the Honorable Court are that he is found guilty for all the offences which have been charged against him. The prosecution has proved its case beyond all reasonable doubts.
Any observation regarding Ashok Singh?
Yes, the court has refused to accept his evidence, and therefore his evidence has to be treated as false evidence now.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
With cameraman Kiran Sakpal, this is Munish Pandey in Mumbai for Headlines Today.
Okay, that's coming in there from outside the courtroom. The prosecution has asked for the maximum punishment. As I said, enormous discretion available to the judge in this case. Maximum is 10 years for culpable homicide not amounting to murder. Is that normal in a case like this, that the prosecution will always ask for maximum?
Prosecution normally asks for the maximum sentence, but the judge has to weigh the pros and cons, circumstances and the conduct, and thereafter the judge would consider, after analyzing everything, the judge would consider the precedent as well. You know,
let's look at those pros and cons very clearly. Salman Khan is a top star of Bollywood. Salman Khan has a lot of money riding on him in terms of Bollywood. Not a consideration in your view, right?
It is not a consideration.
Salman Khan has claimed to the court through a doctor's letter that he has a medical condition. Consideration?
It is a substantial consideration.
The fact, Mr. Bhattacharya, that Salman Khan over these years has, in a sense, done a lot of charity work. Consideration?
May or may not be.
May or may not be. Salman Khan has been involved in another serious case of criminal offence, a black buck poaching case which is ongoing in a court in Jodhpur. Consideration or not a consideration?
Yes, consideration.
Consideration that he's got another case. Yes. The fact that Salman's lawyers at the last moment brought out a driver whom they claimed was the one driving the car after not bringing him for 10 years during the investigation. Consideration, not consideration?
Big consideration.
Consideration.
Because that has not been accepted by the court. That has not been accepted by the court, and for 10 years this witness did not was not
the fact that in the Alistair Pereira case and Sanjeev Nanda case the punishments varied from 2 to 3 years and the number of people killed were more. Is that a consideration or not a consideration?
It's a substantial consideration, and that will certainly weigh down the mind of the judge.
I would slightly respectfully differ with him. It is a consideration, but not a substantial consideration, because each and every case has to be decided and judged on the gravity of its own matter, you know, and not and as far as medical certificate is concerned, you know, I would agree with him now that it is a consideration, but you know, under the circumstances, by the fact that, you know, Salman Khan has been you know, fully active in public life in whatever he is doing,
right?
So this medical certificate will have to be extracted.
You know, there is a view, Nisha, that Salman engaged in a public relation blitz after this, after this accident, to try and mitigate the anger possibly that was there against him. The other view is Salman is naturally someone who's very generous, who's always reached out to people less fortunate than him. What is the Salman Khan that you know of? What kind of a person is he?
I've actually interacted with him, and I believe that the compassionate, the person that reaches out to older people is there. He does exist, and it's not a PR blitzkrieg. I've actually interacted with him once in a hill station where he reached out to this child to hold the child from the mother. Right. So he has that compassionate streak, And I genuinely feel it was before the hit and run case that he's reached out to the people in Bandra, especially older people, older citizens.
Can I for a moment just go to Kiran Bedi, who just joined us, top cop. Kiran Bedi, in your view, guilty, of course, he's been pronounced by the court, now comes to the quantum of sentence. Do you believe that there is this, that VIPs or people who are in the public eye, they need to be sort of sent out tougher punishments? Or do you believe that that should not be a consideration? Do you believe that the fact that Salman Khan is willing to provide compensation to the victim's family should be also a consideration?
Well, I think at the moment this punishment is now, it's sending a larger message. Punishment has two objectives. One is the message to society as a whole, that the law is above you, however high you are.
Right.
And that it's now proven that you did it. You can't say I wasn't given a fair trial.
Right.
Whether you admit it or not, it's proven. So there's a larger message to society, and I think that message has gone to high and mighty completely, because this is a class of people which was considering itself to be above the law, because they always thought police could be won over. Right. And that they could take the VIP privileges or the rich privileges. So I think the message has gone loud and clear. Right. Now comes punishment, and I think it has both reformative element and retributive element. I would think a balance needs to be struck now. Right. The man who's been a victim is asking, please restore my life. Right. Compensate me.
Right.
I don't want you to be punished. I think he has a point. Let Salman, to my mind, compensate him now after the judgment. Because if it was done before the judgment, there could have been two views. One, that he's what over, or secondly, he's human. Well, he could have been human, and yet the trial could have gone over. He could have been done both. He could have been human, and the trial could have gone over. And let people say that he was doing it for a personal interest. I think let it be said. But he could have done it because he is practicing humanity. He's saying
are you saying we need to listen? Are you saying, ma'am, that we need to listen to the voices of what Abdullah, one of the victims, told us, what the family of the deceased Nurullah Mehboob Sharif's family says, change our lives. So they are talking more in terms of their lives, and therefore the retributive part has to be balanced against the desires of what the family wants. That's what you seem to be suggesting.
Yes, we now to restore justice. Now only punishing him is literally no justice to the victim.
Right.
If you want justice, then it has to be punishment with restoration. That means the victim has to be restored what he lost. So I think the justice would be punish him to a reasonable extent, but also restore quality of life to an extent to the victim.
You know, that's a fine balancing act. That's a fine balancing act that you're asking for. So, you know, that's a tough balancing act also. What will be seen as sufficient sentencing for it to be seen as a precedent which has been set? At the same time, the desire of Abdullah and Nurullah Mehboob Sharif's family as to what they consider adequate compensation. Do you want to tell us what you would consider in a case like this, given the precedent in the past, adequate punishment?
That has to, I can't say 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. That will be unfair to ball market. That is for the judge to assess what happened 13 years. Because I think Salman has suffered 13 years also in some way. Like the victim suffered for injuries and loss of life, so did Salman go through a mental torture for 13 years, because trial is a torture. So he suffered a torture. The protracted trial is quite a torture. Right. So I think he too has suffered. So I would think a fine balance of reasonable imprisonment, but I wouldn't like to see without imprisonment. Imprisonment he has to suffer, whether it's short or long. But I think imprisonment must be gone through. He has to touch the prison. I think punishment will not be seen to be delivered if he escapes imprisonment and he suddenly goes on bail. I think that would be a very wrong message. So I think reasonable imprisonment with victims' compensation.
I just want clarity completely from the lawyers. Is the Supreme Court law now well established that if the prison sentence is 3 years or less, correct me if I'm wrong, please, 3 years or less in a case like this, the lawyers can immediately apply for a suspended sentence?
That is
immediately?
Yes, under section 3.
So he doesn't have to then go to jail even today?
Under section 389, subclause 3 of Code of Civil Procedure Code,
right,
it has been very clearly and categorically mentioned,
yes,
that the accused can apply for a suspension of sentence,
right,
and that very court which has sentenced him has the discretion to suspend the sentence. And
so therefore he will not have to be taken to Arthur Road jail then? Absolutely. He will immediately get the benefit of a suspended sentence pending his appeal to a higher court.
He is not bound to get it, but the court has a discretion to suspend the sentence, and in normal circumstances, unless there are very compelling circumstances and reasonings, the court normally suspends the sentence.
Is it? If it is less than 3 years, suppose it is 3 years.
Right.
No, up to 3 years.
Up to 3 years. So it is not up to 2. I thought at one day it is up to 3. So if the sentence is 3 years, then his lawyers can immediately ask for a suspension. Say we are going to now go and appeal to the High Court till such time, suspend the sentence. So 3 years. So that is the window of opportunity that perhaps lies for Salman Khan, as Kiran Bedi is pointing out, this delicate balancing act. Which, tell me on average in a hit and run case, how long does it take? Is the Salman Khan case taken much longer than the average case, or is this the length that people have to spend, that your hair turns grey as you keep going to court, worried about what will happen to you?
Normally such trial finishes up in 3 to 5 years. I mean, in Delhi courts, normally it finishes up in 3 to 5 years. But in this particular case, it has been delayed by Salman Khan himself. So the protracted trial is not only on the basis or not only on the behalf of state or judiciary only, Salman Khan is also the part of it. He is also the cause of it.
And there is the notion of willful negligence, right? Versus if it had been rash and negligent driving, this would have been a completely different case. This is a case which, because it was eventually decided under section 304 subclause 2, it has changed the nature of this entire argument. And part of the problem with this case that over a decade, people could, Salman's lawyers argued that please put it under rash and negligent driving.
Rajdeep, may I just say this?
Yes.
Rajdeep, why? I have already stated that before Justice Deshpande, trial commenced for the first time April last year.
Yes.
Okay. So before Justice Deshpande, the trial has taken up very fast. Now till 2014, 28th of April, from 28th of September 2000, for 12 years, the fight went on only for which section he should be charged, whether it is 279, Rash and Negligent Act, or it is 304A, causing death by negligence. The matter went to Bombay High Court.
Right.
Then Bombay High Court, then the prosecution appealed before the Supreme Court. Then Supreme Court directed it back to the Magistrates Court. And then Magistrates Court finally committed it to the Sessions Court that it should be tried under 304 Part 2.
Right.
So this entire, for first 12 years, the fight has gone on. Only what section is to be charged. The trial has taken place remarkably fast.
Okay, I take your point. Ankit, the trial has taken place remarkably fast, and we are told that the judge also today has promised that by 1:10 he would deliver a verdict on the quantum of sentence. We are now looking at 1:15. Is the judge now in any position to deliver that sentence?
Rajdeep, a small hitch. In fact, the electricity inside the courtroom has gone and it's completely dark. So we are waiting for the electricity to come back so that the judge can in fact come in and pronounce the verdict. So there is a small hitch, not even
this is Mumbai,
under the control of the judge there.
This is Mumbai. I thought the power only went off in Delhi. This is the city of power. Delhi is the city where power goes on and off in more ways than one. I thought Mumbai, at least there was uninterrupted power supply. What's happening to my city?
Well, it seems that even in this high pressure case, even the electricity department is under some sort of a pressure, and that is why the electricity is not here, Rajdeep. But yes, as of now, we are just waiting for the judge to come and preside. We have been told that as soon as he comes, it will hardly going to take any time, and he is just straight away going to announce the quantum of punishment. As the lawyers, eminent lawyers there in the studio were also pointing out, the defense team will then ask for a suspended sentence. They would say they would want to go to the High Court and would probably ask for a week or two before the matter is decided in the High Court. But it will be absolutely up to the judge whether he wants to give them that time or not. In fact, the defense already was heard speaking about the Sanjay Dutt case in Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court gave him 4 weeks to surrender himself when they pronounced him guilty. So all these factors being considered inside. In fact, inside the courtroom right now, what our correspondent Vidya is telling us from inside is that his sisters are completely distraught. They have broken down and they are inconsolable as of now. But we are expecting the trial, the quantum and the judge to come in at any time now and to pronounce the sentence that Salman Khan will have to bear.
You know, I just want to also make the point that we've just heard that the prosecution has decided, and this is important, has decided to move a perjury application against Salman's driver. A perjury application for giving false information to the court. Remember, Salman's driver had told the court just a few weeks ago that he was driving the car. This is what Ashok Singh had said in the case. Is this another dimension that now the court, Salman's driver could face perjury charges?
Yes, he can.
As a consequence of the fact that the judge has rejected his argument that he was driving the car.
Yes, he can be prosecuted for the perjury.
You know, that's something that will add another dimension in a sense to this case, that there will be perjury charges. You know, that's the point, Kiran Bedi, that there's a sense that if you are a VIP, you obstruct justice. If you are a VIP, we saw it in the Jessica Lal case, you can influence witnesses. Is your worry as a police officer this Witness Protection Act, that when powerful people are involved, you never know which way witnesses will turn? Even in the Salman case, we've had witnesses turning hostile.
Before, Rajdeep, we come to the Witness Protection Act.
Yes, ma'am.
I think why did the defense lawyers encourage this perjury? Who are the defense lawyers? They are supposed to be assisting the court.
Yes.
Not only for the accused, they're also as assisting the court to arrive at the truth and to do justice. Which are the lawyers who produced this false witness? I think those lawyers should be taken to task. They should be served a notice by the Bar Council that you have aided, you have obstructed justice by implanting and bringing in a false witness. This would happen in overseas. My sister is an attorney practicing in the States, and she tells me that they just cannot do something like this, and their license would be suspended by the Bar Council themselves. They are so strict in what they say. So if they implant and bring in falsehood deliberately like this, so why should the driver only punish? I think the driver has been encouraged by the defense lawyers to give this witness. Otherwise you say the driver has taken his own choice to say, "Main jaunga, 12 saal to gaya nahi, ab kyun gaya?" Or a stage of the trial pe kyun gaya? I think it is the defense witnesses, jo uske lawyer bane hain, they are the ones who should be responsible to answer the court. Why did they induct this falsehood? Unless the lawyers are not also taken to task, this kind of misguidance and falsehood will continue to actually add to the delay in justices.
I think you're making a very very strong and fine point. Let me take this to the two lawyers. You are paid, or the lawyers are paid. You meaning lawyers are paid for doing precisely this. Kiran Bedi makes a strong point. Ashok Singh, the driver, didn't go on his own volition to the court and say, "I was driving the car." Surely not in 2015 for a case that happened in 2002. He was obviously told by the lawyers. Why should he face perjury? You lawyers should face the perjury charges for encouraging people to engage in perjury, for obstructing the course of justice. She's got a point. If you were in the West, you'd face a cancellation of your licenses for what has happened.
You know, who produced the defense witness? You know.
The lawyers.
No, the lawyers do not.
The defense lawyer presents the defense witness.
Let us agree to disagree,
okay.
Rajdeep.
Who presents it?
Yes.
Who presents it?
Yes.
Who presents it? Tell me.
The accused brings the witness to the lawyer.
Agreed.
The lawyer examines, and if the lawyer considers the witness to be, the evidence to be plausible evidence, then the lawyer takes it to the court. Then it is for the court to consider whether it is a rightful evidence or not. So, as far as
it seems prima facie that in 2015 suddenly the defense has woken up to the fact that Ashok Singh was driving the car and not Salman Khan.
Rajdeep, let us go by the book.
Yes.
The book says that first of all, the charges are framed.
Yes.
We have to look at the procedure. So the procedure is, the court has to frame the charges. Thereafter, prosecution will produce their witnesses to prove their case. So now look at the state of prosecution witnesses. Some of them turned hostile. Now the court will record the statement of the accused.
No.
And then the stage of defense evidence would come. So the stage of defense evidence comes at the last.
Right.
So as a matter of fact, or as a matter of law, the stage of defense evidence comes later than the stage of prosecution evidence. Now there is a credibility. The issue is of credibility of defense witness. Yes. So as far as the Salman Khan's version is concerned, Salman Khan says, I was not driving, he was driving. Now it is Salman Khan who is producing the witness.
Who is guilty of perjury? Why is Ashok Singh then guilty of perjury?
Because he is making the statement before the court.
He is making the statement, but as we saw even in the Jessica Lal case, this was done under influence. The fact is, who was influencing it? Who was pulling the strings? Ashok Singh has not gone of his own volition. Let's be honest about it. It is the lawyers and Salman Khan, whoever is advising him, who has brought Ashok Singh to the court. And the perjury charges will be under Ashok Singh, strictly under the law, as per the law. But what about those? Kiran Bedi is making the point that the lawyers also must face questions.
Can I just respond to that?
Please do.
You know, first of all, the question should be asked. Who chooses the defense witness? A lawyer is a third party. Okay. A lawyer goes by the instructions of the client, and once a lawyer is engaged, only then he can proceed. The fundamental, assumption which Madam Kiran Bedi is making is that this witness has been chosen by the lawyer. I think there is a slight, if I may say so with the sort of greatest of respect, there is a slight misconception here. A lawyer's job is to go by the instruction of the client, and once a lawyer has been engaged, after engagement, then he can advise.
But no, hold on. A friend lawyer is giving me the term suborning perjury. Is this a case of suborning perjury by the lawyers?
No, I don't.
You don't see so. You don't see so. Okay, so Kiran Bedi has a very different perspective to this. Kiran Bedi, you believe?
No, she has a viewpoint, but that viewpoint is a bit far-fetched, and it may not withstand.
Kiran Bedi, you want to respond to this? Lawyers are very upset with the fact that you're not the first time you've had a run-in with lawyers, ma'am, in your life, but they seem to be upset that they can't be blamed. They are going by the letter of the law.
Absolutely.
The letter of the law is that Ashok Singh must face the charge of perjury, not the lawyers.
The point I understand, I'm also a law graduate, Rajdeep.
Yes.
And this is what we were educated in the law university.
Yes.
That you are assisting the court in arriving at justice, and you cannot bring in falsehood. I think unless we break this chain, unless we change this methodology, that is why the legal professions, our trials are getting so delayed, because we are inducting so many things which are actually falsehoods. Unless the defense and the prosecution is actually in search of the truth, you will not be able to deliver justice. And if you were overseas, I'm telling you, I'm personally aware, if a lawyer could have inducted a false accused like this, his license by the Bar Council itself would have been under suspension or under a notice. I'm aware of many cases. Let's research on it and see. The point is, these things are not being allowed to enter into Indian legal systems, because it actually somewhere or the other breaks into vested interests, or let's say established norms of lawyering. I am not against legal profession. I'm searching for justice. I want the courts to arrive at justice faster. So I think that's what the point I was trying to make, that in this case, driver alone is not the one who's committing perjury. Whoever has advised the client to look at this as an option, even if the driver...
5 years. Okay, ma'am, I have to interrupt you. I have to interrupt you. 5 years sentence for Salman Khan is what the court has ruled. 5 years sentence is what the court has ruled in this case. 5 years. That means that that 3-year clause does not apply. Salman cannot apply for a suspended sentence. It means that Salman will have to go today
High Court
to Arthur Road jail, and immediately his lawyers will have to appeal in the High Court. But pending the appeal, Salman will have to spend some time in jail, is what is now becoming very clear. Ankit Tyagi, if you are still with us, 5-year sentence for Salman Khan is the verdict that has come. Can you give us more details as to exactly what has been said by the judge? 5 years is what we are being told is the quantum of sentence. It means that he will have to go to Arthur Road jail, but using precedent could try and get